All right. We are live. Now we're going to go live on,
how can you tell if you're live on Instagram?
I think I have to go to the live video and hit go live, but now it's not working. Oh, wait. Okay. Now we're live on both. All right. Hello, everybody.
It's been a technical
when you go on Instagram, all of a sudden the screen that we're looking at now will also show up on the Instagram page where that stream key is.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So.
Welcome, everybody.
Yes. Hello. All right. So you're almost in Colorado. I'm leaving for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
On vacation, which I'm really excited about. So it'd be nice to get away.
I just want to sit on furniture and not the floor. Sleeping on the floor.
Are you on a box right now?
My computer's on a cardboard box and I'm sitting on the floor. So.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Behind me.
You are hilarious. Well, I couldn't believe it when you told me the other night that you slept on the floor. I was like, I would have gotten a hotel room.
But then I have the dog, and yeah, it was just kind of like, well.
Yeah. Well,
it's high tourist season time in Alaska, so $500 a night for a Motel 6. So it's ridiculous. But
all right, Mikey, hello. How are you doing? And Laura, hello.
Yeah.
Welcome. Thank you for putting it in the chat. So happy Wednesday, everybody, and welcome to the Dog Gurus Live. So I'm Shantae Marquez, and I'm with Carrie Campbell. We are both Profit Network coaches at the Dog Gurus, and the Dog Gurus provide pet care business education and coaching. We give expert guidance with proven strategies and comprehensive resources to help pet care businesses thrive. So whether you're running a daycare, a boarding facility, grooming salon, training center, or all of the above, our goal is to support you in delivering the highest care quality while maximizing your business potential. So from staff training and operational efficiency to customer service and revenue generation, we cover all aspects of running a successful pet care business. And our programs like Pet Guru College offers specialized training that equips your team with the skills they need to excel and grow, which is actually the perfect segue to our topic today, which is managing barking, because Pet Guru College has a module that teaches staff how to manage this. So in order for me to prepare for this discussion today, I was actually reviewing that module to get all my notes and get myself prepared. But, I remember back when I had my facility and I was really just kind of getting myself placed back there in my memory. And, managing dogs, that could really be a lot of fun. It's great and beautiful when things are harmonious and it's going right. It's like a symphony of happy tales and playful barks, but sometimes that one chatty Cathy can really disrupt the whole orchestra. And excessive barking can really tear away at your nerves. Plus, it stresses out the other dogs and makes the whole facility uneasy. But I realize that 100% quiet is really unrealistic and almost impossible, but excessive barking isn't acceptable either. So let's talk about how we can reduce this and manage it better. And really the first step in doing this is figuring out why they are barking. So let's get started with that. Let's discuss reasons why dogs bark and excessively bark.
You want me to go?
Sure. Go, Carrie. I can follow you up. I'll back you up.
Overstimulation. And that can come from a number of things. It can be something that's in the environment, noise-wise. It can be the number of dogs that are grouped together. There's one dog that doesn't feel comfortable, and so they're. It could also be that the dogs aren't paired up well. So there may be a dog that is not comfortable with the high energy dogs running around. So they're standing there barking at an attempt to just get everybody to stand still. I think we see that a lot with herding dogs, corgis, and shepherds, and especially your real high drive, get your Malinois or your cattle dogs. And they tend to be that kind of sharper, high pitched barking because they're just trying to get those sheep to stop moving and stay together. So I think that, the anxiety level or the overstimulation. And then, gosh, I mean, then there's just excitement too. They may just be really excited about it. And so, what else do you have on your list, Shantae?
Some just they bark when they play. Actually, my Rocket does that. He's very vocal when he plays, which does not make my other half happy. but they can be just scared. They can be bored. Excited. That overstimulation I think you spoke about. Or you know what? Maybe if they're in an enclosure and they're barking excessively, maybe they just need to go to the bathroom. That too. So I think those are kind of like the categories of reasons why they bark.
Yeah. Distress, I would say too, if they're in a kennel or enclosure barking.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think it's important to recognize the sounds between different types of barks. So like, a higher pitched bark with quick speed and vocalization kind of equals more stress. And then a lower pitched bark can be related to aggression. So as your staff becomes more seasoned, you can recognize what different bark sounds and pitch mean, just like a baby when a baby cries, right?
I think too, when staff start to get the nuances of what the different barks sound like, then we throw in the wrench of dogs like boxers or squishy face dogs that when they play, I mean, boxers are literally a breed all on their own, right? But when they play, they tend to have kind of a growly, that loose face skin is all, muscling around. And so what is play to them can be very misinterpreted by staff. And I think sometimes they're almost scared of it because it sounds rough. I mean, I wouldn't say it sounds aggressive, but it sounds rough. So I think that sometimes getting staff to the point where they can interpret all those different sounds is really key as well.
And I think, Frenchies, they have the oddest little sounds. I mean, they really do. When they're like, they really do sound like a baby sometimes.
A pterodactyl baby, maybe.
Exactly.
Part dinosaur.
All right. So let's talk about some of the things and methods you could do to help relieve the excessive barkers. So first thing on my list is really utilize recall or redirect the dog. Mm-hmm. And this is really great for a dog that's frustrated or bored. Maybe they're overstimulated. And there's several ways that you can do it. How did you do it at your facility?
So yeah, any kind of redirection, calling the dog to you, asking for an alternative behavior, and being proactive. So don't allow the bark to persist for a long period of time. You want to get it in the beginning so that it doesn't escalate to that point where it's just driving everybody crazy. And if the dog isn't coming to you when called and they're just, consistent about barking at whatever it is, go and grab a slip lead and put a slip lead over them and have them come walk next to you and sit. So just kind of breaking their focus from whatever it is that's causing the barking. Another thing too, which is
happy walks.
Happy walks. I want a happy walk right now. Another thing, consistency wise, is making sure that every staff member is using the same word. So for us, it was quiet. Because that's different than saying no or stop it or, no bark. I mean, dogs don't really comprehend our words. They hear a tone and they know when it's said in a certain kind of short frequency that you mean it. It's kind of like, I think one of the most effective things you can say to a dog is a really good because that sounds more like a little growl that, a communication they would make with their own voices. So, coming up with that same word or making sure everybody's saying it and then not getting into a shouting match with the dog. So if the dog's bark and the staff is like, quiet, the dog's like, oh, this is a game. They bark.
Awesome. Joining in on us. They're like, woohoo!
And now 4 dogs are barking with you. Talk about a chorus, right? You don't want. So, so yeah, making sure that everybody's on the same page and then making sure that it's being effective. Because if it's not, it just becomes sort of a game and something that the dogs aren't engaged in, nor are they actually being redirected with.
Yeah, really any type of leadership exercise just to distract them. I used to sometimes just clap my hands and start walking around in a circle. And all of a sudden, all the dogs are, start following you. It's like play the
Yep.
leader. I mean,
Yep.
you can even try to do things like the hula hoop game, and just really any type of distraction is good.
Yeah, we would just kind of, high pitch happy voice, puppies, 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 and just try to get everybody to come to you. Anything that's just kind of breaking that focus. So.
Yeah. So the next thing is also you can change the environment. So sometimes if a dog is excessively barking in group play, maybe give them a little short break outside of group play, or maybe they need to have a little bit of interaction with the attendant, or maybe you need to do a little activity with them. But, changing the environment, that's good for overstimulated and a tired and a bored dog. But if they're in an enclosure, it's hard every time that they're barking. You don't necessarily want to reward them and take them out of the enclosure. But again, you have to kind of determine on what the reason is of their barking. Do they need to go to the bathroom? So you have to, learn the dog's patterns. But also another thing that you could do is maybe, because we used to have, our doors were like half windows and then the other half were solid. So they couldn't see, but they would still get up and they would look and they would be barking. So sometimes we would just put like a sheet over that window, and actually that worked a lot of times because they couldn't see out, so they would calm down.
Yeah, if it is a window and you like the staff to be able to see in for any reason, we would take contact paper and just stick it on the glass at the bottom, like 8 to 12 inches high, so the dogs couldn't see out, but the staff could still see in if they needed to. Yeah,
it's surprising how well that works.
Visual barriers are magical. Just taking the dog's visual ability to see something outside of the room removes that stimulus that they may bark at. So.
Yeah. And that's also another reason why, because, the dogs at my facility, we made it mandatory that they had to have some type of activity. For lodging, we sold activity packages, but sometimes people wanted to really watch their budget and they would ask, do I have to do one? And at my facility, you did. I mean, it was required because it's just not fair for the dog to be in the enclosure the whole time. I mean, that's just terrible. So, I mean, if it was somebody that had a lower package of activity, I think giving that dog maybe a little quick walk if they're excessively barking, maybe wait till they're quiet and then give them the attention and look towards their way and take them out. But it would be nice too to hopefully help minimize it.
You just said something that made me think. So one of the things I think staff are not as nuanced or effective with is that when they are trying to redirect a dog, they'll say whatever it is that the word that they're using to get the dog to stop. But then when there's a momentary break in the barking, they forget to praise that moment of quiet. Mm-hmm. And that's really what you want to reinforce, is what you're looking for is the dog not to be barking. So making sure when there is quiet, good quiet, yay, just do something that's praising the dog for that moment. They may go back into it, but you may start to see that the more consistent you are, the longer the periods without barking become.
Yeah, like if they're barking in the enclosure, maybe you turn your back and you walk away from that enclosure, and then the moment it stops, turn around and give contact to the dog and start to give it some attention. And it really takes a lot of patience. So this is not easy, we know, because you also have a ton of other things to do while you're trying to manage the situation. But little steps and it'll get better. Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing on the list is using a gentle lead or a head collar. And this is really good for that overexcited, overstimulated dog. Now, there's a few caveats with this one because this technique isn't always the correct technique to use for every dog. So you have to be careful, but you must have it fit properly, number one. And if you don't know what a gentle lead is, you can look at fits right across here and goes back. But it needs to be supervised 100% of the time. And you can't just leave a dog with it on and put them in an enclosure or something like that. I mean, you have to be very strategic how you use it. But again, you got to make sure if that's the right tool that you want to use in your facility for that one. Do you have anything to say on that, on the head collar?
Yeah, there is a company that makes what's called an anxiety wrap. It's the same company that started out the Thunder shirt during.
Cool.
And the idea behind it is so a gentle leader kind of sits maybe halfway up the nose.
Mhm.
And so while it's great for, using as an anti-pull device for dogs that pull really hard when they're on just their collar on a leash or on a harness, it doesn't necessarily hit the tactile pressure points that are in a dog's face. So it's called an anxiety wrap, and off the top of my head, I can't remember the name of the company that makes it. But if you just Google dog anxiety wrap, it'll come up, and it actually hits though. It's targeted to hit those pressure points right here, so it does actually have a calming effect.
Okay.
But that, I would say in extreme circumstances would I use that, and it has to be used by someone who's very familiar with it, and it's not something you just put on out of frustration and leave on a dog. The idea is that you do it in short increments to get them to understand that, if I do this behavior, I get this. If I do this behavior, I get this. And then they're like, oh, if I don't do that behavior, I don't have that on my face anymore.
Mhm.
So, it's the same if you're working on, humping or marking and you're putting it in an enclosure for a few, 30 seconds, maybe a minute most, because they're not going to go in a kennel or an enclosure and be like, oh, I'm so sad. I shouldn't have barked. 20 minutes later, woe is me. Let me out. That's not how dogs think. Everything is very short. So in order to reinforce what you want, you have to make sure that you're doing things in short increments.
Yeah. And it probably wouldn't be a bad idea if you are going to use those tools that we mentioned, maybe have a conversation with the pet owner and
Absolutely.
let them know kind of the situation that's going on and that you would like to use these tools and make sure it's okay with them. Because if you have cameras or maybe somebody's taking a picture and they see that those tools being used and they're not comfortable with it, well, that can cause a bad situation. So you want to avoid that and just be totally upfront with it before you do it.
Yeah,
I would say.
absolutely.
We already talked about happy walks, but that's part of the redirection. And then let's see. Oh, holistic remedies. That's right. Which we kind of talked about with the Thundershirt thing.
Yep.
But this holistic remedies, they're really good for dogs that are stressed and overstimulated. And you can use a number of things like lavender spray. You can use rescue remedy. That's from Bach. You can use pheromones like comfort zone pheromones. So all those things that could be really helpful with maybe calming the dog down that's stressed and barking excessively.
I will put a caveat out there that I have seen facilities that have put a bark collar on a dog, and that is punitive for a number of reasons. But sometimes another dog barking will set that off on the dog who has a collar on it. So you are having a negative impact on multiple dogs by trying to use that technique. And I just think, there's a time and a place where those may be effective in the dog training world, but not in a group play setting.
Yeah, so maybe like if you're going to spray something, maybe you spray it on their bedding and maybe this is more of like an enclosure type option versus like wearing a collar that sprays something.
Right.
I think that's the better way to use it.
Yeah. You can also just take like a little lavender essential oil and have it on your staff, maybe put it on the back of their hands or something. So they have that just calming smell about them.
That's a good idea.
Their own pheromones they're releasing. So.
Yeah, everybody's going to start wearing lavender oil when they come in.
Yeah, lavender.
So basically, those are some tools and techniques that you can use, or they're positive reinforcement techniques that you can use that will really help your staff help reduce that excessive barking. But, the main thing is really have patience, because it's not going to be a quick resolve. It's going to take steps, and it's going to take time of continually doing it, reinforcing these skills and tools that you're using.
I'm going to add something there if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is such a me first world right now. It's all about me. And I think we struggle sometimes with staff not being able to see the bigger picture. An exercise that you could do with staff is to actually have them just kind of mentally walk through what life is like in the dog's position. So if the dog is there for lodging, maybe they just really don't like being away from their pet parents. Maybe just leaving the house is really stressful for them. So, there's a lot of things that dogs can have on board before they even get to your facility. So, having the staff just understand it from the dog's perspective, that not all dogs are there because they love to be with other dogs or they really like being away from home. And some of that, just kind of feeling, I'm kind of the same way. I'm introverted and I don't necessarily like to be in a big group, or, it is hard. I don't really like to travel. I don't want to be away from my own bed at home, or, just kind of giving them the perspective that, that the dogs have feelings too. And if you can kind of, imagine that you're walking in the dog's shoes and understand why this is frustrating for them or why it's causing them some level of anxiety, I think that may help them be a little bit more patient with the whole process of getting the barking to diminish.
Yeah. And also there comes to a point where if this problem doesn't ever actually minimize, or none of the techniques that you're working with the dog work, then maybe that dog is not, best suited for daycare or being in a facility type lodging situation. Maybe because nobody wants to have a dog barking all day and all night. That's just terrible for the poor dog, and your staff's not going to appreciate that either. So maybe that situation is a time where you take a step back and you talk with a pet parent about some other solutions for them. At my facility, we always had a few in-home pet sitters that we referred to, or trainers, because we didn't do training in my facility, but trainers that we referred to help the dogs when we felt this wasn't the best situation, but we still wanted to help the pet parent and give them a solution. So also that's another option as well too. Great. Because sometimes you really just need baby steps with a dog that's really not comfortable. So maybe it's not like doing a whole day of daycare. Maybe you have to do an hour of daycare.
Yep.
And then build to 2 hours. A couple times a week, and then maybe eventually overnight, so it really does take some thoughtful strategy.
Yep. And when you're doing that introduction for a new dog, making sure that you video their behavior so the pet parent can understand why you're doing it in little increments to make them more comfortable and make that adjustment easier. Because I think there's probably nothing worse than somebody making a reservation, dropping a dog off for a 10-day stay, and then you discover, oh my gosh, this poor dog, because the pet parents are out of town, they've left, and now you are trying to manage a situation that's really difficult for both your staff and especially for the dog that's in your care.
Absolutely. So we have a couple comments. Joe, thank you, Joe, for saying this. Regarding lavender use, please be careful, as I have 2 clients who are allergic to lavender, and I wouldn't want any items going home with lavender on. So good call out.
Yep.
And then Game Hunter Gaming I asked, I have 2 dogs and the puppy barks a lot in the crate. Is there anything that you recommend doing, or just let her bark until she gets tired?
So again, I would go back to rewarding the moments when she's not barking so that she understands the praise comes when she's quiet. And, I think with any puppy, when you're doing crate training, there has to be some moments like a little child when you're kind of letting them cry themselves to sleep. But you don't want that to the first exposure in a kennel to be, an hour of barking. Maybe let them tolerate it for 15 minutes. But even then, you just want to make sure that whole introduction is kind of slow.
What about like positive, like associating something positive?
Right.
So maybe have like a Kong with peanut butter in there.
Yep.
And as they enter, they discover that, and now they associate something positive with it and kind of reinforce that. So it's
also to feed them in their crate, so that they have to go to the back to get, where their bowl is in the back of the crate, because it just gets them used to going in there. You can also leave the door open so that when they are not in there with the door shut, that they could go in and out at their own kind of pace, just to discover it. Maybe hide some treats or something in there so that they explore it more with the door open, and then they're finding something good and rewarding inside.
Yeah. My dog loved the crate too. Once they got used to it, then they would just go hang out there and sleep with the door open all the time. So it's not a bad thing. I know people have that They, some pet owners think that it's a bad thing, but it's really not. I mean, my dogs all the time go under my desk in the littlest spot and, squish themselves in. So it feels safe to them.
They are den animals, right? So they like to have their little space. But the other thing, and I used to tell pet parents this all the time, they have a puppy, they did crate training, and then the dog becomes mature and can be out of the house and is not destructive or having accidents in the house anymore. And then the crate kind of goes bye-bye. And that is something, is a life skill that they need, because you never know when something may happen, whether it's a natural disaster, you're separated from the animals, you have to go to a temporary shelter, and the animals go one place and the humans go another. Wherever it is, that the dogs are going to be crated at some point. And not having that life skill and being able to tolerate being in a kennel is really, really detrimental to dogs that are in an emergency situation. If you've given them that life skill and you maintain it throughout their life, then they can tolerate those situations so much better. So I'll off my soapbox, but yeah, it's definitely a life skill.
Joe Williams says, I love playing Susan Garrett's crate games.
Great games. Yeah, that's awesome.
That's great. All right, we'll wrap it up. We'll let Carrie get off the floor because that's what she's sitting on right now. Oh, wait, we got one more.
For puppies and new dogs, we incorporate that with our come, sit, wait games real quick, and helps with the positive association. I love that.
Awesome.
Thanks for sharing
that. Cassidy. That's wonderful. Thank you for engaging with us too and chiming in with the questions and comments. We love that. The more, the merrier. So appreciate that. As I was saying, Pet Guru College, if you want help teaching your staff pet care industry knowledge and teach them how to manage barking, Pet Guru College, that's your source. So that is a staff training system that covers 5 essential roles in your business. So that's a client care counselor, daycare counselor, lodging counselor, enrichment counselor, and seasonal pet care counselor. So I will put that in the chat as well if you guys are interested in learning more. And if you guys want a demo of that, yours truly, well, you can do that with me. So you can just sign up on this link here, and I would be more than happy to chat with you and give you a demo of Pet Guru College. The other thing that I will invite you to, if you haven't already done so, is join our Grow Your Pet Care Business Facebook group. So that is a great place to get advice from others and just share your wins that are going on and just have a nice camaraderie. So that is on Facebook. And we just have 2 rules. That is, be nice and no selling on that group. So there it is. And let me go ahead and put the chat in while the link in the chat. So let's see. All right.
So we are off next week for the 4th of July holiday, but we'll be back on the 10th, I think is the next Wednesday.
Yeah. So, Carrie, you have to have a replacement.
Then.
Yeah, I will be gone, but Carrie will have somebody fabulous joining her. So, all right. Thanks,
Wonderful.
guys.
Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.